Hello, welcome. So, did this happen to you? You start playing Final Fantasy XIV, and you go to the Golden Saucer, and you see, oh hey, Mahjong. I know that game from Facebook. And you go into it, and you're like, what the hell is this? If that's happened to you, that's because this is real Mahjong. And I'm going to teach you how to play it. Now, just to let you know, this is entirely unscripted. So if I take a little bit of pause or something to kind of think what I want to say, that's why. And it's also unedited. I don't do editing really. I don't get into that shit. But I'm gonna teach you how to play mahjong. And yes. So the first thing to know is a little backstory. Is mahjong originated from China, but what is known as quote-unquote Doman Mahjong is actually a rule set from Japan called Riichi Mahjong. And there's a bunch of other games that you can play Riichi Mahjong if you want to sort of play it outside of Final Fantasy XIV and practice. Mahjong Soul is a really good one. You can find it on Steam. But I want to teach you here on the Final Fantasy XIV's table. So you see, so you load it up, you see this, and you're like, what is all this? So each hand of Mahjong consists of the 13 tiles plus 1. And the point of the game is to complete a hand that's worth points. Excuse me. And the way to do that is to assemble a hand. A lot of people compare it to poker. You know, like how in poker you have like two of a kind, you have 3 pair, you have flush, straights. It's kind of like that. Except whereas poker works off of a system of hierarchy, where certain hands are like beat out others, in mahjong it's about making a hand that's worth the most points. Excuse me, I have some water, so I'm gonna be drinking it every now and then. Now, so you can't just collect a bunch of tiles and then expect to win. It has to be assembled in a specific way. So, but before we get into that, let's go over the suits, okay? So mahjong can be divided into 2 halves. You have the suits, which you see over here, and what are known as honor tiles. That would be like over here. If you use I think it's this right here, this tile names. This will show, if you hover over, this will show you the names of the English suits. But I'm also going to go over their Japanese names as well. So to begin with, we have what are known as characters, or manzu. We have dots, or pinzu, and we have the bamboo, or sozu. Each suit goes from 1 to 9. And then over on this side, we have the honor tiles. I'm gonna toss one out. Hold on. I'm gonna toss out. Let's see if someone drops. There we go. Perfect. Pair. So of the honor tiles, you have the winds. In this case, this is north wind. This is west wind. I have learned to read what these say. But you have the wind tiles, north, north, south, east, and west, and you have dragon tiles, green dragon, red dragon, white dragon. Also, I may refer to it, but 1s and 9s are called the terminal tiles because they're at the end. So if I say, a terminal, that's either a 1 or a 9. To assemble a hand, you need to make a hand that's either comprised of 4 melds, that's what they're called melds, 4 melds, and a pair. What is a meld? Well, right here. This is a meld. A meld is either a sequence, in this case 5, 6, 7, or over here it's close to a meld. It's if I had a 3 or a 6, that'd complete that meld. It could be like a 3, 4, 5 or a 4, 5, 6. So either you need sequences comprised of 3 tiles, or you need a triplet. Like over here, for example, if I had another 4, that'd be a triplet of 4s. Over here, a triplet of... Or if you want to use the proper term, it'd be a 4-mon. So if I had a 4-mon, I'd have a triplet of 4-mons. Over here, if I had a 9-pin, it'd be a triplet of 9 pins. And of course, over here, if I had another red dragon, it'd be a triplet of red dragons. And it can be any combination. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be most of the time you're gonna probably get sequences. That's just kind of how things are drawn. But as long as you have 4 of either sequences or triplets that in a pair, that's all you need. It does not matter the ratio. The ratio doesn't matter. But what does matter is your hand has to have what's called a yaku. A yaku is a condition to win. For example, excuse me, do you mind? I'm trying to make a video. Stop, please. Sorry, my cat. For example, I am drawn a red dragon. It's not actually in my hand yet. This is what I have just drawn. I'm holding it. But if I were to get another red dragon, actually, let's go ahead and toss one out. Boom. If I were to get another red dragon, that's perfect. That would be a triplet of red dragons. That would be a yaku. Because having a triplet of any dragon color is a winning condition. It is a assembly of tiles that is worth a point, at least 1 point. Or in this case, 1 han. Your hand has to have a yaku and be worth 1 han in order to actually win a round. There are a lot of different yakus. That's sort of the fun of the game, is there are so many different ways you could assemble your hand, and yakus are worth a variety of points based on their rarity or difficulty. For example, if I was to let's say I can't for me, but let's say I had a 3, 4, 5, and then I had a 3, 4, 5 of the other suits. That's a yaku. mixed triple cheat. If you have a hand that has no terminals, so 1 or 9s, or on tiles, winds or dragons, it's a hand entirely comprised of between 2 and 8. That's called Tanyao, or all simples. That's a Yaku. There's just, again, having a triplet of 8 dragon is a Yaku. Having a hand that's all of one suit, that's a full flush. That's a Yaku. Having a hand that's all triplets, another Yaku. There's even a Yaku that does break convention a little bit, because some of them do break convention, but there is a Yaku for having 7 pairs. There's just so many ways to make Yaku, and that's the fun of the game, is trying to go for those high point hands. And on the topic of points, you'll notice that some of these are. Well, first, actually, let's first explain Dora. Let's because these are also Dora. So if you notice up here, this is called Dora. Now you said this. The reason this says Dora Doman Mahjong is because in this game, the Dora tile is the 4 pin or the 4 of dots. And a Dora tile, it's a tile that's worth an extra point if you win. So if I had a 4 of dots or a 4 pin in my hand and I won, that would count as an extra point. The thing is, I don't know if I can do it I think I have to actually exit the game to change it. But the reason it says Doman Mahjong is because in normal Riichi Mahjong, and again, if you play other games, again, like Mahjong Solve, this is what they do, because this is how it's played in real life. This tile would not be the Dora tile. This would actually be, in the actual real life Mahjong, this would be a 3 of dots, a 3 pin. Because the way you would read a Dora is they'd be called the Dora indicator, and it would be the next tile up in the sequence, be the next tile in the sequence. It's done that way, so that way that tile is not removed from the playable field. That's why it's... Oh, goddamn. Anyway, the wind blows. I kind of want to do that one. Oh, well. But that's why that's how it would work in like a real game Mahjong, is so that way you can have like max amount of bonus points. There's also 2 other kind of Dora. There's known as the Ura Dora, which you can't... It's kind of hard to visualize in this game because they don't show it. But this, in an actual game of Riichi, this would be comprised of 10 tiles. 5 on the top, 5 on the bottom. And the Uradora would be the 5 on the bottom. Because what happens is, if someone wins after calling Riichi, which we'll get into a little bit later, if someone wins and calling Riichi, you would flip the bottom Dora over, and wherever that tile is would also be worth points. So it's a little bit of a gamble there. It's a little bit of a gamble. And that's and there's also some other stuff that we'll get into a little bit later with it. And lastly, there's the Akadora, which are these red 5s. Also worth a point. Extra points if you win. But anyway, yeah, so to recap, to recap, to complete a hand, you have to have 4 melds. A meld being either a sequence of 3 tiles or a triplet. You need to have 4 melds and a pair. So I'm gonna play with this round, and maybe we'll see some calls that come up here. And then let's go ahead and get rid of the 9. So east. So we might notice that each player has a wind. It's attached to a direction to their thing. Those are the winds. East is the dealer. East is always the dealer. And actually, that's another. That's actually another thing. But that's another Yaku you can make. There's 2 wind-based Yakus actually. There's your seat wind. Let's take the Mughal, right? His seat wind is south. If he got a triplet of south winds, which is this one right here. This one's the south wind. Oh, also that's Green Dragon right there, by the way. If he had a triplet of south winds, he could get a Yaku off of that. And there's also known as the prevalent wind, which is, if you look up in the top here, it says East 1. Mahjong is split up into 2 rounds. Well, actually, it's split up into technically 8 rounds. 8 turns divide between 2 rounds. East and South. Yeah, in Mahjong, it kind of goes like counterclockwise. No, wait. Or no, it's... No, clockwise, sorry. It goes east, south, west, north. That's sort of how it works in Mahjong. It's east, south, west, north. And it'd go from east 1 to 4, then south 1 to 4. I am east. My seat is east wind, and I'm in round east. So if I got a triplet of east tiles, I would have my seat wind. I would also have what's known as prevalent wind Yaku, which is the round wind. So a triplet of east would be prevalent wind. Just a little side tangent there. But yeah, so I'm going to explain my thought process here a little bit. This may help you understand how the game is played. Oops, I hit my microphone. Oops. So I'm looking at this, right, and it's like, okay, I have a 4 and a 5 and a 7. If I get a 6, I can make a 5, 6, 7. Or I could do a 4, 5, 6. I pull out a 3. Well, that's a 3, 4, 5. Or it's a 3, 4 if I get a second 5. Or a 2. That can make a sequence. And that's sort of what you have to do in this game. You kind of have to weigh your options. Fun fact, these are actually called weights. You know, this is a tricky situation. And this guy has probably tossed out this, because I could make a 4, 5, 6. So the 7 probably the safest to get rid of. Okay, perfect. Let's talk about your calls. There's a number of different calls you can make. One is called Chi. Chi is a call where you can, for example, this down here, right? A Chi is you complete a sequence. So I can call, so like a 2, or a 5, or a 6, or another 3. Those are all, I can call Chi on those. The only thing is, cheese can only be called on the player to your left. So specifically, the Mandragora would have to discard those tiles. Specifically him, because he's on my left. Pawn is a call that lets you complete a sequence. This can be called on anybody on the table. Now, I'm going to call pawn on this, because that will give me a red dragon Yaku. That means I have a Yaku now, I can win this hand. I don't have to worry about not having Yaku anymore. However, and this is important to understand, is in this game, hands are closed and open. You start the game with your hand closed. If you make a call, then any type of call, your hand is considered open. So by calling pawn, I am now opening my hand. That doesn't mean that they see anything. I mean, they see this. This they see. This they do not. But my hand has been opened because I made a call. And that's kind of important because you do get more points for having a closed hand. And some Yaku require a closed hand. Those are usually the more advanced ones, though, so you probably won't have to worry about that too much. In this case, I'm probably gonna get rid of 9. And I'll explain why at the end of this round. But it's potentially could be very important I get rid of the 9 now instead of later, because it could come back to fuck me up. Oh, look, East Wind. So I don't have any East Winds though. I'm going to toss it out. You know what? I'm going to need a pair because my hand's open. Like, I'm going to need a pair, so I'm going to toss this 8 out. Because if I get a 7, this is already going to complete, 5, 6, 7. So the 8 is kind of redundant. I'm going to toss out the 8. And this is kind of how you play it. You learn to like basically set up your hand in such a way that's like you can kind of accommodate for potential future. Toss that out. You can accommodate for like future, like, oh, I get another whatever, like this, right? Oh, I get one of these sequences. Well, I'll have a pair ready, even if I have to break this one. You kind of just have to learn to sort of... Okay, there's... 4... Oh, I'm just kind of reading the board. Eventually, you want to learn how to kind of read the board. It's like, I'm looking at this. Well, there's already 1, 3 gone. Or that's not 3, that's a 5. No, that's a 3, sorry. There's 1, 3 gone. So that means there's 2 3s left. It could be... You don't see it, but it's called the dead wall. Or it's called the... again, you don't visually see it in this game. But there is... In normal Mahjong, there would be like a wall of tiles around here that you actually draw from. It could be in the wall. It could be in their hands. But I think it's probably safe to break this sequence to keep the pair 7s. Okay, see, he just called Chi. Now you saw that I could also call Chi, even though I already have a sequence. And you can do that. You can do that. You don't want to, in this case, but you can do that. He Rondon, okay. Ron is Oh, look at that, he got 7 pair. I'm gonna tell you right now, I think the AI cheats, honest to God. I think this AI cheats so bad. But, Ron is a call you make when you are down to your last tile and someone discards it. You call Ron on them. And you take it from out of their pile and you finish your hand. Now, if you notice, look at these points. This is how the game determines who wins. Is by the end of the game, whoever has the most points. Now, if you notice, points never actually change. It starts off with what would it be 100,000? With each player, with 25,000. All you do throughout the game is trade points. You never gain or like there's never added or subtracted from. It's just traded. In this case, because he called Ron on Moogle has to give all of his points, all the points of the hand, to the Spriggan. There's another call called Sumo. Sumo is when you draw your last tile. In a case like that, all players would give some amount of points to Spriggan. The amount of points would still equal to the 3,200 that he just won, but all players would still contribute to it. And as you can see, his hand is worth 3 Han. 2 Han for the 7 pairs, and then 1 Han for Akadora. Fu? Don't worry about Fu. Don't worry about Fu. Fu is a weird sort of like sub-points kind of thing. It's like, if you think of Han's like major points, Fu is like minor points, is the best way I could describe it. And they usually don't come into any actual play as far as you're concerned. There is a Yaku that has a Fu requirement. It's not a hard Yaku to make either, but that's like a more advanced thing, so we won't go into it right now. But just don't worry about Fu very much. Oh, we have a double Ron. Oh. Okay, wow, that's actually really rare to see. You know what? That's great because, yes, 2 players can win in a hand if they both need that same tile. I can't believe we got a double Ron because that's actually perfect. That's great. That's something I so rarely see. I actually forget that's a thing. Man, boy, got fucked. He got fucked. But yeah, okay. He got a pure straight because he has a 1 through 9 of the same suit. That's pure straight. And since they both needed the 9 characters or 9 Mon, they were both able to call Ron on him. That's crazy that we actually saw that, because that is generally very rare to see happen. I'm gonna give a little bit of advice. Something that I learned is it's usually good to get rid of your honor tiles first. Like, if you got a pair, maybe try to keep it either as a pair or maybe you can make a triple out of it, but... And... please, I'm going to tell you right now. If you have a pair of wind tiles, and someone throws one out, I see so many people call pawn on it. Please, don't do that. Unless it's either your seat win or the round win, don't call pawn on it. Please don't. If you do, you have to know what kind of Yaku you are going for to make it work. You have to know. I see so many people just call on it, and it's like it's not their seat or their round win, and just like, why are you doing that? You've just kind of soft lock yourself, unless you're going for something very specific. Like all pawns, or like all triplets, or something like that. Like that's really hard to do. But I see people do that. Well, I'm gonna get rid of South Wind because it's not my seat wind nor the round wind, so it's basically useless to me. East Wind I'll keep this. Okay, that's one East Wind down. I'm gonna get rid of this 9 because it's not really doing anything, right? I already have a 4, 5, 6 here. 9's not really doing anything. Oh, that reminds me. The reason I got rid of the 9 the last round is there is. First, we have to explain. Okay, first we have to explain the call Riichi. If your hand is closed, meaning you did not call chi or pawn at any point, and you're down to your last tile that you need, which is called being in tenpai. If you're in tenpai and your hand is closed, you can call Riichi. Riichi, if you win the hand, is worth a Yaku. Even if your hand itself is not worth anything, even if your hand itself doesn't have any Yaku in it, merely calling Riichi makes it a Yaku. Meaning you can win on it. And you can win. You can either win on a Ron or a Sumo with Riichi. So. Ron technically does open your hand, but you can still win with it on Riichi. Because it kind of like it opens after the fact, if you will. It's like it opens after you already won. You know what I mean? However, and this is something that's probably going to be kind of difficult for you to deal with at first, until you learn it a little bit better. In Riichi Mahjong, there is something called Furiten. And if you go into Furiten, it locks you out of calling Ron. You can only call on Sumo, which is you draw a tile. You draw the winning tile. The way you go into Furiten is if you're down to your last tile, and the tile that you need is already in your discard, that puts you into Furiten. It's a little bit like a punishment for not having the foresight to keep it. Now, there is some advanced strategy with Furiten, like once you kind of get good at the game, but if you're learning, you're not good at the game. You're not ready for that. So for the time being, you want to avoid Furiten. But if you are a little bit curious, the strategy is you can put yourself in the Furiten because at more advanced levels of play, people are less likely to discard the top. Like, they're more able to read the board and figure out what you need. So they're less likely to discard the tile that you need. So you can, so the strategy at those like higher levels of play is you go into fur 10 because you're more likely to draw from the tile you're more likely to draw it anyway. That's sort of like the advanced strategy. But again, that's like an advanced level play thing. That's for against people who kind of know the game really well. At a beginner level, don't worry about it. All you need to know is to try to stay out of fur 10 as much as possible. And I'm gonna, since one East is already out, I'm gonna discard this one because like, yeah, see, there's reduced. Having one out reduces the chances of you making a triplet, and oh look, he had the other East one anyway, so that triplet was never going to happen. Now I'm going to pass because I don't need it. Okay, there we go. So now I have sequence there. He called Riichi. He is now in 10 pi. You can tell because the score stick is in front of this thing. That's how you can tell someone's in Riichi. Now, you might be tempted. You're like, oh, I need that 9 for this 7 and 8. Hold on. Can you make a Yaku out of it? No, you can't. For one thing, it's a 9-so, or 9 of bamboo. If I was going for something like Tanyao, all simples, that would break that because it's a 9. So, all simples is out. I don't have a 8 or 9 or a 7 and an 8 of the other suits. So mixed triple Chi, that's out. I don't have that. And I already threw out one of the 9s earlier. So if I even tried to go for that, I could be potentially putting the fur 10. So my best option is simply to pass on it. And just hope I draw it later. White Dragon. White Dragon's already out. Toss it. Again, don't need that one. Okay. Now I'm gonna explain weights. I touched on them a little bit before, but this is a really good example of it. Over here, I'm weighing on a 6 or a 9, right? But also, you look over here. 2, 4, 7. Any of those would complete a sequence. That's a pretty strong weight right there. Like, so like that's so I'll toss that out. The 5 and 6 are this is probably my best weight because and it can be completed on either side. It's either 4 or 7. That's my strongest weight. But just having this amount of options is pretty good because it makes it more likely I'm able to make a sequence out of this. Damn, they tested me. Now, if I had a 6 here, I would maybe call on this because I could have a Tanya. But because I don't, I'm going to pass on it still. Because again, if I get a 9, that kind of ruins it. Of course, like there's 3 9s are already out, 3 you see here, but I don't really want to risk it. Maybe if I was like kind of low, maybe if it was kind of like lower in points. Oh, sumo. Maybe if I was like further down in points, I might, but So yeah, as you see here, he has Menzo Sumo. Just calling Sumo on is because his hand is remained fully closed. That's worth an Yaku. That's worth a Han. So that in itself is not a Yaku. That's not a Yaku. Doors are not Yakus either, but they are worth points. And that's important to understand. Yaku does not equal points. Yaku equals the condition to win that's worth a point. Riichi is Yaku. These are not. So yeah. So do not equate Yaku with being just points on their own. No, Yaku means having a specific condition that's a winnable. Okay. See, he calls it that. I'll throw it out because I have my seat wind. Those are west. So now I have a seat wind Yaku I can work with. And I have a triplet over here as well. Nice. Okay. Actually, this is perfect. This is also another good thing. Alright. This can be counted two different ways. You could see, now depending on how the hand shapes up, this could either be a triplet plus a weight of like maybe like a 5 or another 2. That's possible too. Or, and what's most likely probably going to happen, you could also read it as a 2 pair, a pair of Doman, and a sequence of 2, 3, 4. Both are correct based on how your hand basically gets built. Both can be potentially. It's like, yeah. Let's say I get. That's okay. So let's say I get another 3. I have a pair of 3. Oh well, this can be a triplet of 2s. Or again, I can just keep it as a 2 pair. 2 pair is a pair, and then use this as the sequence. I will pass. Okay, I have a pair there. So this can be a sequence now. Since I have a pair of 2s hull, this can become a triplet, and then I can wait on again either the other 2 or a 5 to make a sequence. Or if I have to, I can break this. I can break this pair and make it maybe like a 1, 2, 3 or something. Those are just kind of the strategies you gotta think about as you play this game. I'm kind of hoping maybe I draw another 2 so I can demonstrate something to you. Because there is... Well, let's go to the 5 then. Oh, he called Ron on me. Damn it. See, now I have to give him my points. Because there is one more call to talk about, which is called Khan. Khan is a little bit unique because it doesn't quite work like the other calls do. Calling Khan is basically a declaration of a quadruplet. Now, the thing is, that in itself isn't actually worth anything. You know, it's not. It doesn't consider it as anything special. It's, for all intents and purposes, it's still considered a triplet when it comes to your melts. But what it does do, what Khan does do, and again, it's Khan's a little bit tricky because there's like multiple versions of Khan based on like if I, for example, that two. If I drew the two, that'd be a Khan, but it'd be considered like still a fully closed hand. There's Khans where it's like, oh, but if someone else did, it would be like it opens your hand because you're basically calling on a triplet. Khan's a little bit weird like that. Don't think about it too much. But the big thing I see some like new people doing is they see it call Khan because they oh, I can call it, make that call. I'm gonna call it right now. Don't. Khan is kind of like a gambler's call because what it does is it reveals another Dora. And that could be good for you because it could reveal a Dora that you can use in your hand. Maybe and I've seen it happen where it's like, let's say I have a triplet or something, someone calls Khan. Oh, that triplet is Dora. I now have like 3 extra points in my hand. But that can also be true for your opponents as well. If you call Khan, they could get that extra points. But also, let's say an opponent wins the game, wins that round. When you reveal an extra Dora, in this case it'd be like right here next to this one. When someone wins on Riichi, instead of flipping 1 Oradora, you flip 2 Oradora. And that's where it gets really risky. Because you're essentially offering them more opportunities for bonus points. Khan is best called when you are pretty sure you can win a hand. That's the best time to call it. When you have a really strong hand and you're pretty sure you can win, that's when you want to try to call Khan. Because you want to use it to try to give yourself as much bonus points as possible. And then win so your opponents can't get those bonus points. I'm going to throw just one because it's... Now, I have 2 North Winds here. Those don't do anything for me. But they do count as a pair. So I'm going to keep them. Five. The 5 would put me in I'd be waiting on a 6 bamboo. 6 bamboo. Not the worst, especially in the early game. So I'm probably going to get rid of this 1. Because terminals are sort of the weakest tiles. Next to kind of next to honor tiles. They're considered fairly weak because they can only sequence in one way. They can only sequence in a 1, 2, 3. So unless I had a 2 or something, or a 3, it'd be like, I might as well just kind of get rid of it. I'll get rid of the 9 because that puts me at 6, 7. No, we're not doing the meme. We're not doing that. Oh yeah, see, and there's that 3. But that's fine because then I can do put it here, do a weight here. For a 2 or a 5. Get rid of the East Wind. Because then that could be like a 4, 5, 6 potential possibility. I'm waiting to see if someone drops a red dragon. Or white dragon, sorry. Do I chi on this? Do I chi on this? Well, if I'm waiting for white dragons, I might as well. Maybe go for the 5, 6, 7. And you'll see here, it'll give you options as well, like which one you want to do. I want this one. And we'll toss out this 4. No, pass. Oh, okay, well, there you go. Well, shit. I drew it, which is good, but I opened my hand, which is like, oh, well, that kind of sucks. In that case, I'm gonna get rid of this bamboo, I think. Let's see, there's an 8 there. So that's 1 out. There's an 8 that's 2 out. 5 still looks like a strong potential. There's 5 there. So it's still a decent weight. Still okay. 3 guns there. 5 there. So yeah, those still both are really good. And they're stronger weights than this one. Because while this one can only do a 6, again, these two can do, a 5 or an 8, or a 2, or a 5. Okay, I'm gonna call Khan, because I do feel kind of strongly here. See right there. That's what happens. Now anyone who has that tile, that's now considered bonus points. Oh, look at that. He has one. That's now an extra point to him because he has that. He had this one, now he has this one. And now I am in... Oh. There you go. I'm in 10-5. Now he drives it. I can call Ron. I did not get any Orador, though, sadly. Because I could be wrong, but I think this tile is not actually taken out of the board. Again, normally in Riichi, they are. That's why they use called indicators. Because again, like I said before, if this was normal Riichi, this would be an 8, and then the door would be 9. Because that 8 has to be removed out of the playing field, because, I mean, you can't just magically summon a new copy of it, But this is a digital thing, so they can do that, and I think that's the case here, where there's still 4 9s at play. I think. I'm not 100% positive about that, though. So don't quote me on that. I might be wrong. I might be entirely wrong about that. But yeah, and this is pretty much just that's pretty much just all Mahjong is. It's just making a hand, trying to assemble it in a way where it's worth some type of value, under a proper condition, and then just try to build the most points that you can out of a hand. Over time, you'll learn more Yaku, and you'll learn to read the table better, and you can like for example, there's a Yaku, for example, called All Green, which is a triplet of green dragons, and then all Sozu, or all bamboo. That's like a really strong one. That's sort of like 6 Han, I think it was. So I'm going to wrap this video up, but before I do, I'm going to tell you 2 more things. One, actually no, I'm going to tell you 3 more things. One is what's known as playing defensively. Let's say someone calls Riichi. And it's like maybe you have like 30, 20 tiles to go or something like that. And they call Riichi. And you're like, shit. My hand's not shaping up. I don't have a good chance to win. Well, you don't want to discard into their hand, because then they can call Ron on you. You have to give them all those points. And this is a game where you can go from first to fourth in one round. It's kind of really tight like that. So, like, so what you can do is what's known as playing defensively, where if you can kind of guess at what tile they may want, you can just not throw that tile out. A good way of like reading the table if they have Riichi is look at their discards. What have they discarded before? And especially, what have they discarded recently? For example, let's say Muruga calls Riichi. Well, I know he's not going to want a white dragon, so I can toss out a white dragon safely. He's not going to want red dragons. You can toss out red dragons, probably, fairly safely. This person tossed out a green dragon. He's probably not going to want that. He's tossed out like these ones. So tossing out the 8s of either of these are probably a safe bet. Same with like the 2 of this one. Probably a safe bet. Not guaranteed, but maybe. And that's just... Let's see if we can get someone to Riichi. So, let's play it out a little bit, see if someone goes in Riichi so I can show you. Because my hand's doing pretty good right now. I'm doing waiting here. And then I have weights here, but I have a pair already. Because pairs can be kind of tricky to, You want to try to keep your pairs if you can. Okay, perfect. He's in Riichi right now. Okay? So, okay, he discarded the 9. So I know he does not need the 9. Or he discarded the 8. So I know he doesn't need the 8. He's probably not going to need the 9s because he can't make a sequence out of those. He could have, and considering here's 9 here, 2 9s here, he definitely can't make a triplet. So both of these 9s are safe to get rid of. He's not going to call on those. Oh, he assume would anyway. But that's like how you play defensively. Oh, shit. Not bad. Not bad at all. But yeah, so as you see, we each give points to him. Because he won on a sumo. But yeah, so that's how you play defensively. So, like, if I went into Riichi here, let's say I had this, like, let's say I had the 8 here, I'd be waiting on these tiles or something like that, and I had the 9, I'd be waiting on one of these tiles. If you could figure out, oh, I'm waiting on maybe, like, the lower end of the mon, I can just not toss those out, and I'll be safe. Because you want to avoid being called on as much as possible. Even if you have to break up your hand, it's better to break up your hand than it is to lose. That's the first thing I want to talk about. The last 2 things I want to talk about. One is Pinfu. Let's see if I can't set up a hand into Pinfu. Because Pinfu is kind of a useful Yaku to know about, but it does take some setting up. First of all, I have to get rid of all honor tiles. Pinfu cannot have any honor tiles. Pinfu can also not have any triplets. Pinfu can only have sequences, and of course the pair. Your hand also has to be closed for Pinfu. So, no triplets, no honor tiles, hand has to be closed. Okay, actually this is pretty... What I need is... If I can get an 8. Anyways, whatever. This'll work, okay? So, because I need an 8 to really... Okay, we have pair, we have this. Let's imagine we have this 8. So, just now we're on a 4 and a 5, right? Imagine that's all we need. We're in 10 pi with the 4 and 5. That would be Pinfu. Pinfu is... So technically, and this is going to be a little advanced, okay, so I'm sorry. Pinfu is a Yaku where your hand is constructed in a very specific way, and it's worth like 20 or less Fu. That's where the Fu kind of comes in, with Pinfu. And the only way to do that is sequences only. Again, no honor tiles. Hand is closed. But also it has to be... Now the weights do have names. I don't remember them. But it has to be this kind of weight. Where it's on either side. That's what's the requirement for Pinfu. This would not count because I need the 8 and it's in the middle. That would not count. If it was this, the 1, 2, this would also not count. It has to be one of these ones on the sides, like this, for it to be Pinfu. It's a little bit more of an advanced Yaku, but it does come helpful because it's kind of easy to set up. I'm trying to figure out what this person... Clearly they don't need the higher end pin. I'm trying to figure out what they could go on for. Oh, it's okay. There it goes. He run on me. That's fine. So the last thing I want to tell you about, and this is not something you should actively go for in like 99% of cases, okay? This is not something you should go for in like 99% of cases. But there is something called Yakuman. They are hands that are worth the maximum amount of points. And they are extremely rare and difficult to make. Like already, there's one Yakuman already that I am almost certainly not going to get. 2 actually, because these all have been tossed out. The most famous Yakuman, I'd say the most famous, is what's known as 13 Orphans. It is a hand that has 1 of each wind, One of each. Alright, I can't get it because all the white dragons are out. One of each wind, one of each dragon, and the 1 and 9 of each suit, plus a pair of any of those. So it's like a 1 and 9 of Mon, 1/9 Manzu, 1 and 9 Pinzu, 1/9 Sozu, each wind, each dragon, and any of those has to be a pair. And it's called the 13 Orphans. That's like probably the most famous one. There's another one which is having a triplet of all the dragons. That's also a Yakuman. There's some other Yakumans out there as well. Again, you can look them up for yourself. There is actually a Riichi Mahjong wiki. That's where I would go if you want to really look that stuff up for yourself. But yeah, don't go for those unless you want to like really risk it. Because again, they are extremely rare. Extremely rare. I've been playing Riichi Mahjong for a few years now, and I've only gotten maybe 1 or 2 Yakuman total in all the time I've been playing. But like this would actually be a really good. Actually, this would have been a really good set for 13 Orphans if they didn't discard the white dragons and the green dragons so heavily early on. Because like I have red dragon, I have all the winds, I have the 1/9 of Sozu, I have a 1/9. This would actually have been a really strong contender for the 13 Orphans if it wasn't for up here. You're on me. But yeah, so that's basically Mahjong. It's a lot. It looks a lot more intimidating than it actually is. Once you learn the actual way to play it is, again, it's fairly simple. It's really not a hard game. After all, well, and of course it's not, because it's extremely popular in Southeast Asia. It's a very popular game in Southeast Asia, throughout Japan, throughout China. There's a bunch of different rule sets. There's traditional mahjong from China. There's Riichi Mahjong from Japan. Another popular one is Hong Kong Mahjong. I don't know what the actual rule set's name is. I only know it's played in Hong Kong, originated from there. There is an American quote-unquote mahjong. It's not really considered to be actual mahjong. It's considered kind of like an bastardization of it. So most actual mahjong players do not consider it as a real game of mahjong. It's weird as hell. It uses like Joker tiles and shit. It's weird. But yeah, overall, it's not that hard. It's really not that hard to play. And again, you can play the NPCs in Final Fantasy XIV. Another really good game, if you're okay with a lot of very anime, because it's very anime. Mahjong Soul, it's free on Steam. That's another option. And yeah, I'll just go ahead and show you real quick as well. Gold Saucer. There are rankings, and there are achievements for getting a certain amount of ranking. There's 3 different. I think it's oops. Hold on. Let me look it up real quick. What FF Mahjong achievements. Let me get the actual numbers for you here. Achievements. Yeah, so your first achievement is a ranking of 1600. Sorry, 1600. Your second is for 1800, and your third and final achievement is for a ranking of 2000. Unfortunately, I got so close to the second achievement, and yeah, just a bad string of games after that. It happens. You have history of Yakuman that you've called before. You're most likely gonna get plays on weekends if you do it through Final Fantasy. If you play Mahjong Soul instead, if you want to practice, and if you want to do ranked in there, you're going to have a way easier time getting into a game on Mahjong Soul than you are in Final Fantasy 14. Like, just generally any day. Again, I will tell you, I think the NPCs in this game cheat. Because I swear to God, I swear to God they cheat. I swear to God. But yeah, like, it's a fun game. And it's really not that hard. It's really not. I hope thank you for showing up. If you have questions, we'll leave them in the comments. I can answer things for you. And again, I hope if you find this useful, I hope you have a good time playing Mahjong. It's a fun game. It really is. Prepare to have your soul crushed. You have entered the arena, and only one leaves. But yeah, then there you go. If this tutorial is if you have any criticism or something, just let me know. I can try maybe making a second one that's better if this one isn't quite up to snuff. Again, I don't really do scripting or editing and stuff, so I just. But yeah, there you go. You know what? I'm rambling now. Have a good day. Enjoy Mahjong. It really is pretty fun, especially with friends.